Good morning. There will be no restrictions imposed on economic activities this year, including setting up Ramadan Bazaars. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, when giving the assurance, however, said a more streamlined standard operating procedure would be set for Ramadan Bazaars to be announced at a later date.
Walaupun kita akan buka perniagaan seperti biasa, tapi keselamatan dan kesihatan perlu dijaga. Mungkin SOP lah yang akan bertukar. Tapi itu pun tak tahu lagi, kita tunggu Kementerian Kesihatan lah yang memutuskan.
He said this to reporters after partaking in the Losang toss at a Keluarga Malaysia Chinese New Year luncheon in Kuala Lumpur on Sunday. Earlier, media reported that Ramadan Bazaar traders were worried that they would not be able to operate due to the surge in COVID-19 cases over the past 1 month. Last week, Federal Territories Minister Datuk Seri Shahidan Kasim said Ramadan Bazaars would be allowed to operate as usual in the Federal Territories this year, with existing SOPs in place. In 2020, Ramadan Bazaars were not allowed nationwide to curb the spread of COVID-19, while in 2021, bazaars were only prohibited in the areas that were under Enhanced Movement Control Order, or EMCO. On a separate matter, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri has brushed off a claim that the country can achieve political stability without UMNO and Barisan Nasional. He said this was evident as Malaysia was currently being led by a Prime Minister from UMNO and that the country witnessed history as a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, had been signed between the government and the opposition to provide stability.
Saya Perdana Menteri daripada UMNO dan disokong oleh rakan-rakan daripada parti-parti lain, dan kita telah pun mewujudkan kerajaan yang stabil sebab first time dalam sejarah MOU ditandatangani antara kerajaan dengan opposition yang tak pernah berlaku sebelum ini, dan ini telah memastikan negara dalam keadaan stabil, jadi tak timbul isu lah. Apa yang disebut oleh Menteri Kedah itu tak betul.
The MOU Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri was referring to was the bipartisan cooperation signed by representatives of the government and Pakatan Harapan on September 13th last year. The MOU, which was signed about a month after Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri was sworn in as Prime Minister, was to establish a practice of constructive democracy in finding solutions to any problems to achieve a goal of a prosperous, inclusive and sustainable Malaysia. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said this to reporters when asked to comment on a controversial statement made by Kedah Menteri Besar, Datuk Seri Muhammad Sanusi Mat Noor, who claimed that Malaysia can only achieve political stability without UMNO. He was reported as saying that Malaysia had yet to achieve political stability because Barisan Nasional was given the chance to be in power again. He claimed that any state assembly where UMNO was in a kingmaker position would be dissolved to pave way for fresh elections, and cited the state polls in Malacca and Johor last year as his basis. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said he is planning to go to the Middle East for a working visit end of next month and to China in May. Prior to that, the Prime Minister said he would complete his working visit to the ASEAN countries, beginning with Brunei, which is scheduled for Monday, followed by other countries such as Thailand, Cambodia and Vietnam.
26-23 Mac, tak silap saya lah. Lepas itu saya akan ke Timur Tengah pula, Arab Saudi, UAE, Qatar, dan lepas itu saya ke China.
Malaysia established diplomatic relations with China in 1974, the first country in ASEAN to do so. Since then, the two countries have forged close ties and developed partnerships for mutual benefit in various aspects. Indonesia was the first country visited by Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri after he took office as the 9th Prime Minister on August 21st last year. Pilgrims who had to cancel their Umrah travel following the month-long temporary postponement will each receive a payment of 1,671 ringgit, which will be made on February 18th. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs, Datuk Idris Ahmad, said the payments will be credited only to the Tabung Haji TH savings account of the pilgrims to facilitate matters. According to Dato' Idris, the Tourism, Arts and Culture Ministry, MOTAC, had submitted a list of 8,027 names of Umrah pilgrims who were impacted and qualified to receive the payment. And of the total, almost 1,000 of them still did not have a TH savings account. He said the government has allowed Umrah pilgrimages for Malaysians to resume on February 8th with a new standard operating procedure SOP, including a mandatory COVID-19 booster dose for pilgrims. He added travel agents also needed to monitor the compliance of Umrah pilgrims while in the Holy Land, travelling back to Malaysia and while at Malaysia's international entry points. The Public Service Department is currently conducting an assessment on the government's decision to allow teachers and staff of the Community Development Department, KEMAS, to return to politics. Chief Secretary to the government, Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali, said the Public Service Department was in the final stages of preparing a circular as well as guidelines on the matter.
Perkeliling itu sudah dibuat oleh JPA. Kita tengoklah apa yang dikeluarkan daripada perkeliling tersebut. Sebab PM kata tidak adil kalau kita hanya menghadkan kepada beberapa jabatan, tetapi kita kena lihat juga implikasi daripada apa yang dibenarkan tu. Tapi saya jangkakan untuk sementara ini guru dan juga kita kemas dibenarkan untuk politik lah. Dan JPA sedang dalam peringkat akhir mengeluarkan perkeliling sebagai garis panduan.
Recently, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob announced that the government had decided to allow teachers and KEMAS staff to be involved in politics. Tan Sri Zuki was met by reporters after the signing-off ceremony of the strategic plan for digitalization of the Terengganu State Secretary's office by Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Ahmad Samsuri Mokhtar at Wisma Darul Iman in Kuala Terengganu on Sunday. On another development, Tan Sri Zuki said the implementation of a new remuneration system for civil servants is subject to the government's current financial position. However, he said the government was in the process of reforming the system and the matter was still in the study stage. He said the government was also looking into the matter following the increase in the country's poverty line, with household income of 2,008 ringgit categorized as poor. Agriculture and Food Industries Ministry Mafi and the government has yet to decide whether or not to extend a subsidy for poultry farmers. Its Minister Datuk Sri Ronald Kendi said the current subsidy is provided for the period of February 5th to June 4th, which is during the implementation of the Keluarga Malaysia Maximum Price Control Scheme, SHMKM.
Kita tak nanam jagung negara kita. Kita tak keluarkan jagung secara komersial untuk makanan ternakan di negara kita. Kita import daripada luar. Sebab itu harga ayam kita meningkat kerana kebergantungan terhadap import makanan ternakan daripada luar. Harga daging meningkat sebabkan oleh import ternakan. So, industri ternakan kita yang bergantung kepada import makanan ternakan daripada luar dikesani sedemikian rupa apabila harga import makanan ini meningkat. Yang berdasarkan kepada pasaran harga pasaran antarabangsa.
He said this after opening the large-scale Smart Paddy Field project at the Area Farmers Organisation of the Muda Agricultural Development Authority, MADA, on Sunday. Datuk Sri Ronald added a new policy to encourage corn cultivation was being drafted to reduce the country's dependence on imported corn for use as animal feed as part of the effort to control chicken prices. He also stressed that it is crucial for the government to provide a subsidy, even if it will have a financial impact on the government. The current subsidy is given to ensure the price of chicken remains below 8.90 ringgit per kilogram, compared to the market price, which can reach up to 9.80 ringgit or 9.90 ringgit per kilogram. The organizer of the MIC Brigade launching ceremony held at Edu City Stadium, Iskandar Putri, on Sunday, faces the possibility of being issued with a compound for violating the Standard Operating Procedures SOP on COVID-19. The matter was announced by Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin through his Twitter posting on Sunday. The Rembau Member of Parliament also shared a link of a portal that uploaded a video of the ceremony. Also expected to face a similar action are Barisan Nasional BN Treasurer General Datuk Sri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein, Johor BN Chairman Datuk Hasni Mohamad, and MIC President Tan Sri S.A. Vigneswaran, who were present at the event. The recently announced One Family, One House aspiration that was announced by the government to ensure adequate, quality and affordable houses to meet the needs of the growing population was welcomed by many Malaysians. However, addressing the issue of home ownership, especially among the low-income group, should not be focused on providing inexpensive housing alone. Instead, the problem must be looked at with a broader perspective, as it requires a more holistic solution. According to economist Dr. Carmelo Felito, the government in tackling the issue of affordable housing needs to also take into account the possibility of creating high-quality economic growth by providing good job opportunities for the target group and improving connectivity in order to enhance social mobility. He also said presently, Malaysia's economy is driven by government spending and consumption instead of investments, which is unsustainable in the long term.
I think that is much better to think about this in terms of rental support. Because the key point is not poverty, or is not the fact that the poor cannot afford to buy a home. If they work hard, they have access to good job opportunities, they can move away from that situation and eventually decide to buy a house if they want to do so.
He also stressed that providing financing to allow more access to home ownership may hold good intentions, but on the other hand, it can also raise the country's household debt level even further, which is already the highest in Southeast Asia. It also puts the most fragile segments of the population at risk in terms of their financial stability, and even more at risk when a new economic crisis happens, as seen when Malaysia was placed under lockdown to curb COVID-19 infections. Dr. Felito also urged Bank Negara Malaysia to look into ways to keep inflation below 2% to prevent diluting the purchasing power of the people. On the supply and demand mismatch in the housing market, he pointed out that statistically, many affordable houses remained unsold over many years, and this should be looked into as well.
So I think that our perception of this mismatch is deriving by the fact that we are looking only at the transactions that happen on the primary market, the new houses, and we are not taking into account what is happening in the secondary market, where the actual people, the real people, the lay people buy their house. Let's not forget that 80% of the transaction in the property market happens in the secondary market.
As for the public, they hoped that the initiative introduced by the government could help ease their burden, especially for the middle and lower income groups in purchasing a house.
I think it's good that they're giving these opportunities for people, because everyone needs a home, no matter what, where they come from, which background, what race, you know. So I think it's great.
Because the housing prices in here, in KL especially, of course, is very high. So if the lower income can somehow manage to earn, to get one home for them, it's very good. Since, you know, people need homes over their roof. So, roof over their heads. So yeah, I think it's good.
Somali woman found dead in front of a shop. This and more local news when Nightline returns.
Piala AFF bawah 23. Semarakkan sokongan anda untuk Harimau Malaya. Hanya di TV 9.
Nightline continues. A Somali woman was found dead, believed to have been killed in front of a shop at Jalan Memanda 2, Ampang, Selangor on Sunday. Ampang District Police Chief Assistant Commissioner Muhammad Farouk Ishak said they received information about the incident at around 12 noon. Based on preliminary information from the Assistant Medical Officer of Ampang Hospital, there was a snatching incident at the location and police assistance was required at the scene. When the police arrived, the victim was found laying on the ground and was confirmed dead by the medical team. Police are tracking down the suspect involved in the incident and they have also obtained information from witnesses. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code for murder. In Johor, a 37-year-old lorry driver has been arrested following a collision with 5 vehicles that left 1 person dead and 5 others injured at kilometer 19 of the Pasir Gudang Highway. Sri Alam District Police Chief Superintendent Muhammad Suhaimi Ishak said the suspect is believed to have been driving under the influence of alcohol above the prescribed limit. The incident occurred at around 6:30 p.m. on Saturday when the suspect was driving towards Johor Bahru from Pasir Gudang via the Pasir Gudang Highway. The lorry veered into the opposite lane and collided with 5 other vehicles. Suhaimi said the driver of one of the other vehicles, a 21-year-old man, was pronounced dead while being treated at the Sultan Ismail Hospital. Another victim, a 46-year-old man, was treated at the hospital's high-risk emergency zone. He said the remaining victims suffered minor injuries and have come forward to assist investigations at the Sri Alam police station. The case is being investigated under the Road Transport Act for driving under the influence of alcohol, which carries a punishment of between 3 and 10 years jail and a fine of between 8,000 and 20,000 ringgit upon conviction. In the meantime, Johor police are on the hunt for a syndicate believed to be organizing illegal car racing and drag racing on the North-South Highway near the Skudai Toll Plaza. State Police Chief Datuk Kamarul Zaman Mamat said initial investigation found that the syndicate used women and money as bets.
Daripada maklumat yang kita peroleh, selain daripada wanita, ada juga wang. Dan mungkin ada sindiket yang berada di sebalik perlombaan ini. Dan kita akan siasat dan kita akan ambil tindakan.
Datuk Kamarul Zaman said the syndicate was detected following a 1-month monitoring by the police, which brought to the detention of 126 individuals at a Skudai Toll Plaza in an operation from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. on Sunday. He said all the 126 individuals, comprising 107 men and 19 women, were between 18 and 30 years old. However, only 6 men aged between 22 and 25 were found to be involved in the illegal racing, while 120 people were just the spectators. Datuk Kamarul Zaman added urine tests on all the 126 individuals found 3 men who were among the 6 involved in the illegal racing positive for drugs. The 6 individuals were detained under the Road Transport Act, while the spectators were freed on police bail. After the break, son of late Philippine dictator widens his lead. Stay tuned. Thanks for staying with us on Nightline. On to the foreign front now. At least 10 Indonesians were killed after tidal waves swept away a group of people meditating on Payangan Beach in Jakarta during the early hours on Sunday. It was reported that 10 bodies had been retrieved from the ocean and 12 people have been rescued alive, while a 40-year-old man was still unaccounted for. According to local police chief Heri Purnomo, the victims were too close to the sea and could not save themselves when the tidal waves came. He added that it was unclear what kind of ritual the group was performing in the predominantly Muslim region, but it was led by a spiritual guru who survived the incident and would be questioned. Officials had also warned visitors not to swim or get too close to the water after recent reports of high waves. Ferdinand Marcos Jr., son of late Philippine dictator, strengthened his lead over his closest rival ahead of the Philippine presidential election in May, following results of a new poll released on Sunday. In the survey conducted by independent pollster Pulse Asia, Marcos garnered a 44-point lead over Philippine Vice President Leni Robredo, an 11-point increase compared to the previous poll in early December. A total of 2,400 respondents were asked to pick their first choice for president and vice president if the election were held during the survey period, and 60% have expressed their preference for Marcos, while Vice President Leni Robredo came second with 16%. The survey was conducted before last week's decision by a division of the Commission on Elections that junked 3 petitions to disqualify Marcos. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the imminent threat of Russian military action in Ukraine justifies evacuating the U.S. embassy in Kiev. His words came after Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky urged calm, saying the biggest enemy was panic. In Saturday's call, U.S. President Joe Biden has warned Russian leader Vladimir Putin that invading Ukraine would result in a swift and severe costs to Russia, diminish his country's standing, and cause widespread human suffering. More than a dozen countries have urged their citizens to leave Ukraine, and some have also evacuated diplomatic staff and their families. Bayern suffer another shocking defeat. Action from the German Bundesliga right after this breather. sports football, the German Bundesliga. Promoted Bochum stunned Bayern Munich with a 4-2 win over the Bavarian powerhouse, preventing the league leaders from going 12 points clear. Bayern were the first to find the net when Robert Lewandowski opened the scoring in the 9th minute, squeezing the ball past Bochum goalkeeper Michael Esser, following Kingsley Coman's pass. Christopher Antwi struck back for Bochum 5 minutes later as he evaded Niklas Süle to let fly inside the post after being set up by Gerrit Holtmann. The hosts then took the lead in the 38th minute when they were awarded a penalty after Dayot Upamecano's outstretched arm blocked Elvis Rechbekage's attempted cross. Jürgen Locadia stepped up and converted the spot kick. Christian Gamboa made it 3-1 2 minutes later when combined with Patrick Oosterhag before firing a rocket of a shot into the far corner before Gerrit Holtmann repeated the feat from the other side just before the break for a shocking 4-1 lead. Lewandowski found a way through Bochum's defense in the 75th minute for Bayern's second, but it was too little too late as Bochum held on to the advantage to secure a memorable 4-2 victory. It brought back memories of Bochum's near success over a star-studded Bayern team in September 1976, when the visitors fought from 4 goals down to win 6-5, with Uli Hoeneß scoring the winner in the 89th minute. In another match, Bayer Leverkusen maintained their winning run to stay in 3rd place with a 4-2 win over Stuttgart. The home side broke the deadlock in the 41st minute when Moussa Diaby scored a one-on-one from close range. Stuttgart drew level 4 minutes into the second half through Thiago Tomas's fierce drive, just for Amin Atli to restore Leverkusen's lead 3 minutes later, heading home a curling free kick. Florian Wirtz then gave Leverkusen their 3rd in the 85th minute following a fine team move, before Thomas pulled another one back for Stuttgart in the 88th minute. Any hope of a comeback for Stuttgart, however, was diminished a minute later when Patrick Schick provided the simplest finish for an accurate pass, sealing a 4-2 win for Leverkusen. With a victory, Leverkusen maintained their position on 3rd place after securing 13 points from their last 5 games. And that's it for Nightline this time around. As we wrap, we leave you with visuals of hundreds of lanterns dotting the night sky on the opening day of Taiwan's Sky Lantern Festival. With that, I'm Raymond Goh. Have a good and productive week ahead and stay safe, Malaysia.